there, welcome back to another show. This is another Asian Movie Monday. I was going to say Japanese Movie Monday, but Asian Movie Monday. Although really it's World Cinema Monday. I mean, I'm starting off with Asia, but I'm going to World Cinema films quite easily in the Monday slot. I mean, it's not going to always just be Asian. I think I made that clear last week, but this is like the World Cinema spot, and the West comes in Tuesday slot. So just to clarify something I don't think I really made clear last week, that's the general idea, is that this is the world movie thing. But for the first month or so, it will be mainly Asian stuff, and I have been watching a lot of Asian films in the last year or two, so it seems to be more focused on that at the moment. Right, so this week's actually going to be a sillier week to start with. It's just a lot of silly stuff this week. I mean, I was trying to kind of qualify, and I was like, there's no qualification for some of the films I'm going to cover. There's just not. And so I'm starting off the way I'll probably finish off, which is with something extremely silly. And this time it's the Stephen Chow debut as a director, which is From Beijing With Love. Now, From Beijing With Love is, very silly Bond parody. This is really silly, but it's done with a lot of enthusiasm, so it's really funny. So it's really I always avoided the Stephen Chow stuff, not for any other reasons, because it looked very much like Jackie Chan stuff, and I'm not the biggest Jackie Chan fan. I like Jackie Chan's abilities, but I don't particularly find them funny. I mean, I much prefer Sammo Hung to Jackie Chan, who I think is a lot funnier. And I'm more into the more kind of serious martial arts stuff. I just think it's more fun, actually, to see them actually be more tactical with the fights and things. The gag fest things can be fun, but sometimes it can be a bit annoying. Because I don't think that Jackie Chan is in the same level as Buster Keaton for humour. I mean, he's trying to be Buster Keaton, he's a big fan of Buster Keaton, but I don't think he ever really nails, like, the peak kind of silent comedy the way Buster Keaton could. He tries, he gives a good try at it, but for me, I'm a big Buster Keaton fan. I think Buster Keaton's just better. And that's kind of why I've always had a weird beef with Jackie Chan in a weird way, because I always think he's just not quite as good as Buster Keaton. But Stephen Chow doesn't feel he's trying to be Buster Keaton. He feels like he's trying to be silly. And this film was really a lot of fun, because it really does not protect his lead actor, like, at all. Jackie Chan films, you feel like, even though they're making him look like an idiot a lot of the time, they'll still protect his ego a little bit. He means well. And this one, Stephen Chow character is a bit of a dick. And he remains being a bit of a dick. He may mean well sometimes, but then there's lots of jokes that show him off to be, not the nicest person, or very entitled and very much in his own head, and he thinks he's the greatest. And the fun part of the film is, it's obvious he loves Bond movies. He's probably seen A View to a Kill so many times, which is one of the worst Bond movies, but I'm pretty sure he's seen this film more than Sanity. I think he's seen most of the Bond films more than you sanely should, just by watching this film and knowing all the jokes, all the layers of jokes. But there's also a funny thing is, when he's doing it, he's referencing, and Untouchables had come out like 4 or 5 years before, and the music switches between a parody of Bond and a parody of the Untouchables. Anytime there's a suspense bit, it's a parody of the Untouchables. There's even a moment where they're setting up a child to be in danger, a la the Battleship Potemkin Steps parody that De Palma did in Untouchables. But all the music cues into the suspense is always very Ennio Morricone Untouchables type of thing. Because it's just obvious he loves that kind of overblown stylization, but then he can take it to a further extreme. But the film itself is, despite the fact the lead character's an idiot a lot of the time, it is quite good in nature as a film. I mean, there are probably outdated jokes. I've heard some of the names in Chinese are slightly homophobic. I don't know the culture stuff. I just read that on Wikipedia. I could be wrong. But the film does tend to really just parody the excesses of someone who thinks they're a stud. I mean, he starts off as this guy who's he thinks he's undercover as a butcher in a market, when in fact his bosses have just forgotten all about him and he's been left here for 10 years. But even though he's a butcher, he's actually he's still got a dry martini to the side, even though he's utterly skint. And this takes the mickey out of the Chinese authorities and the secret services. I mean, everyone in this film's incompetent. Anybody who's in any sense of authority is incompetent. Apart from the leading lady, who is an assassin, she's not incompetent, she just has bad luck. And nothing goes right for her. But in a sense, in another film, she'd be competent. Just in this one, for the jokes to watch, she has to make mistakes. But the film has this sense of play about it. It's this sense of all this stuff's absurd, but we all love it. That's why we like the Bond films of the 60s, 70s, and 80s. They were absurd, they knew it. And there was a playfulness between the audience and the filmmakers about how absurd it was. And this film just gets, and it is the best Bond parody because it just loves Bond. It has a man with a golden gun, but it's a gun with explosive tips of different things that does the various bullets do a lot of strange stuff. I mean, the film starts with an action scene that seems very influenced by John Woo, and it kind of sets up here's the threat. It still has some jokes, but it's not as jokey as the rest of the film. And then we just go into the jokes after that. So we've set up the plot, now we can forget about it for an hour. This film's only about an hour and a half at most. I think it's an hour 20. I mean, it feels like it's always moving really fast. It feels like everything's been cut out that slows the film down. There's no pacing issues at all. For a first time directed film, it moves fast. It moves really fast. So there's none of the padding of someone falling in love with their own material. It's just like, does this joke work? Good, we'll keep it. Does it not work? No, we'll keep it then. It's that kind of feel to it. And it's just joke after joke. Some in the background, some in the foreground. So you can probably watch again and see a lot of background joke you never noticed first time. They parody all this stuff, like the Q stuff with all the gadgets. But in this one, because it's the Chinese authorities are behind it and nothing works. So it's always trying to make it the Chinese authorities and all their stuff, all their gadgets are just underused and they haven't paid for properly, and all the military men are on the take and are selling stuff on the side for money. You know, it's just typical human nature. We've got this idea we're living up to, but behind the scenes we're selling things off. There's a great joke later on where Chow actually gets out of a bad situation by bribing people, which we've never seen in a Bond film, but it's just perfect in this one. There's just lots of jokes like that. Like there's just certain things that keep on tweaking your expectations in a fun way because you're in the joke, you're enjoying it. Everything's playing on the idea of a Bond movie and what you expect from a Bond movie, who Bond is, and it's like, okay, is this guy really incompetent or is he actually just acting competent? And it's kind of a bit of both. He has skills, but he's kind of rubbish at the same time a lot of the time. He doesn't notice some obvious stuff. I mean, half the plot is really, but he has to go to Hong Kong, buy superiors. They find his fell in the rubbish pile. Oh yeah, we'll use him. That's how low he is at the beginning of the film. And the plot is he's been sent out as a patsy. So the person he's sent to is this woman who has been told to kill him basically, and we'll set him up as the villain. And everything she does to try and kill him, nothing goes right. But she always remains a threat because you know she does have some competence to her. It's just that life just does not go her way at all, which is part of the joke, part of the funny stuff. And but because he's more competent than he looks, it also means it takes a while for her to actually get anything done. But there's lots of really funny stuff. There's a bit in the mall where he runs into someone from his old town, and then all hell breaks loose there because there's a big mall fight. Because as soon as you go to a mall in basically in a Hong Kong movie, this is a Hong Kong movie, as soon as they hit a mall, it's getting trashed. It's like, I don't think any Hong Kong director can go near a mall without trashing the place. You know. So as soon as you hit the mall, it's like, oh, this place is getting so trashed. And it does. There's a party that everything goes wrong. And it's just joke after joke. It's like, it is sort of like Airplane, the way that if you don't like one joke, there's going to be another one in about 3 seconds, so you'll be fine. Just ride out the ones you don't like, and you'll be fine. There's still another bunch of jokes coming. And it all really delivers. It's a film you can watch with a smile on your face. It's so silly. It's so in the joke and so annoying about every bit of the character has a twist in the bond. Like, you know, his attempts to be cool, and he never looks cool because he dresses all the way up, and then he's got this ugly tie, which Chow makes sure you're always seeing how ugly this tie is. And Chow's playing the lead actor in as well, so he's totally doing up this idea that this guy doesn't really have a clue. So he has no problem looking as undignified as possible at times. And even when he does look cool, there's always a gag to undermine it straight away. But yeah, this is a lot of fun. I mean, I don't want to say any more about it because I just from telling you all the jokes. And you should really see it for yourself because there's just lots and lots and lots of jokes. And it's just a lot of fun. So it's definitely one to see. Now, another film coming up is Toshika Toyoda's Unchained. This is the second and last film of this video. I'm not doing that many videos this one, but the next video I'm going to have quite a lot of films covered. So just consider vary week to week. Like one video probably have not that many, and one video probably have a lot of films covered. That's to make it the world cinema there's less. But this one's another gem. This was Unchained. It's a documentary by Toyoda. He was shooting during the 90s. He became friends with these boxers and kickboxers. So he started filming them. And he made a documentary, and he also had access to older footage they'd filmed themselves too. And even though it's a film with boxing and things, it's actually a film about boxers and the life outside of boxing. It's like it's what happens when you're following people who are not going to be the top person. They might win an odd fight, or they might win an odd little championship here or there, but they're not going to jump up to be the top level fighter in their field. They're not going to be that. Or they're going to have a small run, and that's it. Or in the case of Unchained Kaji, who's the guy who brings everyone together, he's a fighter who came out with a lot of rage, and he was probably a little insane. He gets more and more unhinged as he goes, and he didn't win any fights. The best he did was a draw. I mean, you see fights from before. It's all this energy, but it doesn't really work in the fighting thing. It just doesn't work for him. He ends up getting injuries, and it's like you have to retire. So he retires without a win. He's a lot of energy to do it. He's a lot of passion for it, but he's just not going to make it. And that's what the film really feels like it's about. It's about the failures in life. And boxing is just a metaphor for whatever you're passionate in life, and how most times it's not going to work out for you. You're probably not going to be the top of the field of the thing you want to be top of the field at. Very few people make it to the top. And even then, when they do, a lot of times they're very compromised. So, this is about the failures. So Kaji actually has some friends he runs into, and he slowly builds up bonds with 3 other fighters. And you've got one who's a lot of them are kickboxers. And you've got them as they slowly go through their careers. You've got one who's a very focused fighter. He takes it very seriously. He has a day job, but he puts all his passion into fighting. I mean, at one point, for a championship potential, he cancels his wedding and quits his job to train, and then loses. You know, that's his passion. That's the thing. Everything around that, he can't separate his passion from the rest of his life. He needs it to all be that. There's one who's the most skillful one, but he probably lacks the passion of other people. He's the most observant. He's the one that actually can step outside the boxing and kickboxing world and see there's a world outside it, and even though he's passionate about it, there's other things he's interested in, and he's the one with the most sanity. You know, he's the one who actually can step back and go, this is not a good idea. Don't do this. And then there's another one who goes along with Kanji a lot and seems game for things he probably shouldn't be game for. But he seems to be the one who's got the least drive and the least talent beside Kanji. But he's into this thing. He wants to do it, and his friends support him. And it's all these people supporting each other, even though none of them are really going to reach the top. And it's all happens over a decade of people's lives in this environment, and what the sports mean to them. And you see them as they're wild, like basically wild kids in their 20s as they're going through this field, and they're training hard and they're doing all these matches and they're winning and losing and they have a lot of drive. Then you see Kanji slowly get out of control as his career's over. He tries to make his friends better by supporting them and being the kind of touter at the matches, and it's his way to stay in the world, and he's still passionate about it, but he's slowly... There's something... His upbringing was so horrible. Like, his uncle brought him up, but he didn't know that for years until his uncle died. He was basically abandoned by his parents, and there's a lot of anger there that he hasn't dealt with, and he just acts out in lots of weird ways, and he's into fights, and it's just very dangerous to be around him, because if you're around him, you could end up in a fight that could really damage you, because he's that person who's kind of spinning out of control. He'll fight with anybody for any reason. And halfway through the film, you think it's about him, and then he gets institutionalised. It's like, okay, well, where's the film going now? He's now in the institution, and you don't see him again for a long part of the film. And it's like, well, what's the film about now? And then it becomes a thing about their friends, their ups and downs and things. I mean, that's the film. The film is about life and the weird ways life takes in different directions. Like it's like what happens to you if you're a bit too sane for this crazy environment, which is the kickboxing world. Well, one of them is probably too intelligent for it, and why is he so distant from people when you start to see more of how he ticks. You've got the guy who's really passionate, and you see him in like day jobs and stuff, but he's still driven, and he's driven continually to do this stuff. And it actually becomes a more interesting film when Kaji's out of it. When Kaji's in it, he drives the whole narrative, and you've got like 45 minutes of this film and just going wild. You think it's going to go insane, and then it goes in a totally different direction. But it works really well because you suddenly realise that's the life they've been living, and suddenly it's going to a different direction, and everything slows down, and you have to actually deal with life then. And that's where the film really becomes moving, as you see these three guys, how they deal with the fact that their friend's been put in an institution, and also have to deal with life without the person who was their link with each other, and is also the person who drove them. So it's about the complications of life and an industry, and you're chasing your dreams, and like which ones can give up, and which ones are stay driven, and which ones are not so sure where they're going to go. And it's a fascinating film. It's very moving. Toyoda's a terrific director. I mean, this film has so many weird narrative strains that you think it could easily spin out of control, but he keeps the film short, and he keeps it directed towards what interests him. But he doesn't overdo the pace, and so you always have a sense of the consequences of everyone's actions throughout, and nothing's get left behind. I mean, the worst thing about the film, I suppose, is that it's made up of footage of shot over years. So sometimes the narrative joins from one event to the other might take a lot of time for you to figure out, or they have to explain it a bit, and so you're going from life event to life event. So sometimes it can be a bit clunky. But that doesn't matter, because even the weird clunkiness there actually feels messy the way life's messy, and the film always makes sure you know where you're going ultimately. So even what could be a weak point for some people, never bothered me. But I'm pretty sure some people watching thinks it jumps around too much. But I'm fine with that. I'm fine with where it goes. So it's a wonderful film. It's in the Toyoda Volume 1 3 films thing that Third Window put out. There's a second Toyoda box set coming out in October, this month, October, which I pre-ordered, so expect more Toyoda videos pretty soon. But that's me for now on the Asian Movie Monday. I'll be back